Factsverse presents Worst Guns in History. Number 1. 2mm Colibri. This gun was designed in 1914 by an Austrian watchmaker. He wanted to try to make a gun that could be very easily hidden. Therefore, he built it tiny. Using the gun was close to impossible due to its small size. The bullets that fit the gun were half an inch long and had no spin or velocity. When the weapon was shot, the bullet could barely get through an inch of pine board. It is not used for self-defense today. It is more of a collector's item. Number 2. The Chalchat. This gun was used by soldiers in World War I, and they were a huge disappointment. These soldiers needed powerful machine guns that could be moved easily during an attack and could provide adequate firepower. This gun didn't have any of those qualities. The construction was so poor that the parts could not be interchanged. The magazines contained large holes that often got packed with mud, so the gun wouldn't shoot. The gun could not aim at all, and it often jammed and overheated. If soldiers were issued these guns, they would throw them away and replace them with anything else that they could find. Number 3. Cochrane Turret Revolver. This gun was designed in the 1830s, and it was very dangerous, not for the target, but for the shooter. The gun contained a round disc with holes that would hold a ball and powder. To fire the ball, you would need to move the disc from a hole that was empty to one that was full. This would mean that the shooter would have to point the gun at themselves. The gun often misfired, which resulted in the person holding the gun shooting themselves. Number 4. Davy Crockett. The U.S. military knew that they needed a weapon that had the power to kill millions. They needed something to use as the first line of defense against the Soviet tanks that went past the inner German border. While the NATO commanders thought it was a great weapon, many others disagreed. Using this weapon would turn a conventional attack into a nuclear one, which could have resulted in a world-ending conflict. Regardless of the dangers, the U.S. deployed 2,000 of these weapons from 1961 to 1971. The last above-ground nuclear test in U.S. history was when the Davy Crockett was fired. Number 5. Nambu Type 94 Pistol. This was a very popular weapon with servicemen in Japan. However, it was actually pretty awful. It had very delicate parts that often broke when the gun was disassembled. It was also difficult to reload. If the gun was jammed into the holster too hard, the magazine could fall out. The biggest design flaw is that if the gun was tapped too hard on the side, it would fire. There have been many reports of the gun going off when passed back and forth to soldiers. Number 6. Northover Projector. Winston Churchill needed a weapon that would help Great Britain's Home Guard reservists stop German armor. This is when the Northover Projector was built. It shot a 2-inch projectile, and it was supposed to be able to stop a tank. Unfortunately, it had design flaws. The shells often got stuck in the barrel. This could be dangerous to the person firing the weapon. Also, when fired, it let off so much smoke that the shooter's position would be identified easily. There were 18,000 of this weapon made. However, it was never fired during combat. Number 7. Puckle Gun. This gun was invented in 1718 by a British lawyer and inventor named James Puckle. The gun was a huge revolver on a tripod that shot square bullets. It was meant to shoot at Muslim Turks. It was believed that square bullets could do more damage and it would teach the Turks how to live in a Christian civilization. The gun was very hard to aim and even harder to fire. In the end, the Puckle gun was considered to be a failure. Number 8. Knock Volley Gun. This gun was designed for the Royal Navy during the Napoleonic Wars. It was supposed to be used at close range to shoot at enemy ships. The gun was very unique as it could shoot 7 bullets at the same time. Sadly, it had many design flaws. It was very hard to aim, and when it recoiled, it could seriously injure the shooter. Also, when it was fired, everything around it would catch fire. The military stopped using it very early on. However, It came back in movies and television years and years later. Number 9. The duck-foot pistol. This is one of the strangest-looking firearms in existence and also the most useless. It has 4 .45 caliber barrels, and they don't point in the actual direction you are aiming at. If you're being ambushed by people who are surrounding you, it might help. Otherwise, it is more dangerous than it is helpful. This weapon was not used for long, and today you will only see it in a museum. Number 10. Krumloff. Nazi Germany believed that they finally found a solution to shoot around corners. The Krumloff is a curved barrel that could be attached to the STG-44 assault rifle. The idea for this gun was it could send shots from hidden positions. Unfortunately, it failed. The shots could not be aimed, and the attachment could shatter, which could have killed the user. The barrels didn't last long either. The gun was quickly put out to pasture. Number 11. The Glissenti. This gun was used in World War I. It was designed to fire a 7.65 millimeter bullet, but officers wanted it to fire the 9 millimeter, which was more powerful. When these bullets were stuffed in the chamber, the gun would blow apart. The gun also jammed often and wore out very quickly. It didn't take long for the soldiers to secretly get rid of these guns and replace them with their old revolvers. Number 12. Grossflammenwerfer. This weapon is a 2-man flamethrower, and it was used in World War I during the German Empire. It didn't take long for the French and British troops to discover the weakness of the weapon. The rifleman would fire into the area where the weapon was operating. It took just one hit to the weapon for it to explode and kill both of the operators. It was also too heavy. Soon it was replaced with a lighter model. Number 13. The Gryojet. This gun was developed in the early 60s and it fired small rockets rather than bullets. Unfortunately, this weapon had many flaws, including little recoil, inaccurate aiming, and it could not be loaded quickly enough. There were 1,000 of these weapons made before the design was replaced with something more versatile and practical. A few were used in the Vietnam War, and today you will only see this gun in spy movies and action movies. Number 14. The Arsenal AF-2011A1. This gun was released in 2015, and it is basically 2 1911-style pistols that were welded together to provide extra firepower. It didn't go over well at all with gun enthusiasts. They found it to be bulky, hard to shoot, and very inaccurate, not to mention that it was overpriced. The most attention that this gun ever got was in the 2015 film Spectre. Number 15. Ring of Fire guns. These guns are also known as junk guns and Saturday night specials. Unfortunately, they were cheaply made. They had poor accuracy, they often jammed, and these guns often discharged accidentally. It is also the gun that was used in the assassination attempt of President Reagan in 1981. Number 16. Ross Rifle. This rifle was developed in 1903 in Canada. It is great for hunting and target shooting, but it is awful in combat. Even if the rifle gets the slightest bit dirty, it jams. This makes it a horrible weapon during an attack. Number 17. FP-45 Liberator. This is one of the worst guns in history. It was designed to shoot someone carrying a better gun so that it could be taken. This was very difficult to aim, and it was so hard to reload that it was easier to just throw the gun away after taking one shot. There is no record of this gun ever being used in combat. Number 18. The Czech CZ-38. This gun was developed in 1938, and Nazi Germany bought up the whole lot. Unfortunately, it was a horrible weapon. It could be easily assembled and disassembled, but it was very bulky and too heavy. It also had little stopping power. They were mostly given to second-line forces and police officers. However, they stopped making the gun after the war. Number 19. LeMat Revolver. This gun was used for the Confederacy to use during the Civil War. It was a typical revolver with a shotgun underneath. While it was cheap to make, it didn't use standard bullets. It was inaccurate, and it was difficult to load. They only made 2,900 of them. Number 20. Boy's Anti-Tank Rifle. This weapon was used during World War II, and it was able to hit a target at long range. Unfortunately, it was very heavy, and the user often suffered arm and shoulder injuries when they fired it. It was no longer used when heavier tanks started being built. It was, however, mounted on vehicles as a sniper rifle. Number 21. M14 Rifle. This gun was an upgrade of the M1 Garand battle rifle, and it worked great during World War II. Unfortunately, it was horrible during the Vietnam War. The jungle weather made the gun rust and jam very easily. The Army quickly switched to an M16, which was better for the environment. Subscribe for more.